All right, thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. My name is Brittany, and I am one of the info services librarians at the Arlington Heights Library. And just so everyone knows, tonight's program is going to be recorded for later sharing on social media. The video will be available within the next few days. For those of you that are registered, you should receive a link to watch the video. And your camera and your audio have been turned off. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. Again, my name is Brittany, and I will be monitoring the chat tonight. And at the conclusion of the presentation, I will turn off the recording feature. So please feel free to ask Kelly questions. And I just want to let everyone know our next Jobs and Careers program will be on Thursday, May 12th, and that's Better Resumes for Applying Online. I did put a link in the chat to the program so you can register. So please check there. And then on to our presenter. I'll do a quick introduction. So tonight we have Kelly Hoey, is a networking expert and author of Build Your Dream Network, Forging Powerful Relationships in a Hyper-Connected World. And Kelly offers a modern approach to this essential career skill, together with practical strategies on how to connect for success in the social media age. So Kelly has also contributed to publications such as the New York Times. She has Inc.com and Forbes.com. We will have Kelly's book soon. I just put in a request for it yesterday. So those of you that are interested in Kelly's book, it should be arriving soon. And I'm going to turn it over to Kelly. And I want to say, Kelly, thank you for being here tonight. She joins us from New York City, and we are so happy to have you.
I am thrilled to be here. So thank you, Brittany and everyone. And yeah, let me give you a little more background on me so you can understand how I made this topsy-turvy career, because I didn't pop out of the womb wanting to write a book, or I didn't pop out of the womb being a networking expert. My first career was as an attorney. Started practicing law in Canada before moving to New York City. And actually that's forms the basis of part of my thinking about networking. How do we build relationships to help our careers excel? How can we do it in a way that is sustainable, particularly we're in a demanding career or job that may require us to do, a lot of work behind a desk and not a lot of time for schmoozing around? How can we do it in a way that is, effective and long-term, because that seems to be the way that really can build relationships, that net of relationships around your career. So my first career was as an attorney. And as I said, I sort of noticed that there was a conflict in that profession on how you became successful. You needed to bill hours and you needed to build relationships. So I began to look from very early in my career at every single human interaction being part of our networking toolkit. So a voicemail message, or the voicemail, I'm going to say the message that people receive are the ones that you leave. That's part of your networking toolkit, as far as I'm concerned. How you send an email, your email signature line, your social media handles, whether or not your LinkedIn profile is complete. All of that is part of your networking toolkit. Like I said, I realized that from an early point, just out of necessity, because of being in a profession that required hours to be billed and relationships to be built as well. I practiced law for about 9 or 10 years. No, it was longer than that, maybe 11 years, until I decided to make a career change and realized that I didn't have the network to support my ambitions. And it took 18 months for me to really build a trusting, vibrant network to make a career change, because I wanted to move into a role on the management side in the legal industry, and quickly realized that word of mouth was what was going to get me the job and open the doors to this sort of whisper network of relationships and job openings. So that, little piece of advice, not to be a Debbie Downer on that one. So it was like, build the relationships before you need it, and build a diverse network of not just people in the same industry or sector, because I have a fabulous network of lawyers and bankers and all that kind of good Wall Street stuff, but that's not where I wanted my career to go. And so I really realized after making that career change, like, do not leave my career vulnerable again. Next big sort of career move outside of working in sort of big corporate was being offered a job opportunity on the basis of an hour-long phone call. And that sort of sounds like one of those magical things, but let me tell you how I put my networked my career in front of that little piece of serendipity. I was very active in a women's network. And when I say very active, I mean, if they had a tool or an opportunity, I took advantage of it. So I made sure my profile was complete online. If they had opportunities to be involved in the organization, whether that was blogging, whether that was volunteering, whether that was helping to organize, whatever it was, I took advantage of every single thing. And I asked a lot of questions about what I could do and how I could get involved. And the next thing I knew, the founder of the network called me, and at the end of an hour-long phone call, she offered me a job that previously had never existed. And that really changed everything, because it really gave me a wider footprint to grow from with my career. It exposed my skills and my talents to people who were much beyond the professional services, the world that I had been in. And so I saw a bigger platform for what I was able to do. And from that role, all sorts of other things came up. There's a visual at the front of my book, and literally it says, "Your name keeps coming up." It's because all of a sudden, what I could do and who I was in front of a whole lot of other people. And so a word of mouth reputation that you build from your actions, that you build and sort of spreads because of other people talking about you, as well as in this digital world, what you're sharing online, that all went further and took my name into new corners and new places that I hadn't ever imagined before. And fast forward a little bit more, and that's how I ended up standing, I think it was in 2014, going, maybe it's time to write a book on networking. So that's a little bit more of my backstory of how I got to be where I am. Some real principles, as I sort of hinted on these things, during that summary of my career, is, networking is every single human interaction. Make sure that how you're networking, in real life, in person, aligns with who you are digitally, because people who are referring you, people who are looking to support you, people who want to recommend you or refer you, hire you, they may get a reference from someone and then immediately go and look you up online. Kind of mirrors the behavior that all of us do when someone gives us a recommendation. So really have your online and offline operating in unison. And what you'll find is you can really amplify and magnify what it is you're seeking to achieve and who you are. And, I would say reinforce, like right now, like think about it. We're here, the people who are in this program right now live on Zoom versus watching recording later. All of us are here right now. But we're also networking outside of this because, someone's looking up something at, the Arlington Library and they're seeing Brittany's profile. Or someone is looking up alumni from your school and they may get referred to your name, or somebody else has reposted something you've shared online and all of a sudden they're looking at your profile. So we kind of network when we sleep. And that's why I think more than ever, it's really important to who you are online, offline. Think of it as a unified whole and operate this way. Which also sort of leads to, the building your network before you need it, but also realizing, networks take time to build the trust, to build that generosity so that someone wants to give you the resources that they've worked hard to develop. But it also, that shouldn't be so scary. Like, part of what you're doing now, networking, is seeing what the other person's interested in and staying on top of what's engaging or important to them. And that may be simply celebrating, their kid's success in Little League because you noticed the post on Facebook. It could be remembering birthdays. It could remembering something that they're interested in. And when you see an article or a book or something, you recommend it to them. That's as meaningful in my mind as, I want to say the mental gymnastics we try and go through, imagining how we're going to get a stranger interested in us. Taking care of people you already know and finding little ways to continuously help them, that will take your network, your reputation further than imagining how you can throw, one Hail Mary, if I want to use a sports analogy, in all of this. The other piece in all of this, and I think this is sort of the fun part we can get into together and have this much more interactive, which is the way I love to do these things, is so much for me when people get really anxious and scared about networking, they're thinking about the activity. And we get really stereotypical. We're really thinking about, oh my God, I got to walk into a room of strangers. How am I going to get into them? How am I going to start a conversation? What's a good icebreaker? All that, you can probably hear that mind chatter in your own head. And I want you to pause and just kind of chill on that one for a moment. So let's do this. Grab a piece of paper. Any size piece, make it a decent size piece of paper. And something bigger than a little yellow Post-it note. And right now, there's probably something that you think you need help with, like the help of other people. You need the help of other people to help you achieve something. So maybe there is a goal you have right now. Maybe you're looking to make a career change. Maybe you're looking to up your business. Maybe, if you're here in the Zoom right now, I know your microphones are off, but there is the chat feature. So if you can share something that maybe it is a goal, but for everybody, that piece of paper you pulled out across the top, like, what is that big goal? Are you looking for a promotion? Are you looking to change jobs? Are you searching for a new job? What is that big goal that you have right now? Write that across. Write that across the top of that piece of paper. And then I want you to take that piece of paper and I want you to divide it into 3 columns. So you've got your major goal across the top, and then you've got 3 columns down below. So if I'm going to use myself as an example, at some point back in sort of 2014, I had this big goal of writing a book. Came upon me one day, I got to write a book. Well, you just don't go from having an idea to having a book published. And if you didn't know I was in New York, you can guess now because of the sirens. Okay, so there's a lot that goes into writing a book. That big career goal is made up of little milestones. It's made up of smaller goals. And some of those goals are getting information. Some of those goals are getting introductions. So that first column, I want you to start thinking with in relation to whatever your career, professional business goal is right now. I want you to start thinking about what are all the sub goals that you have or information that you need, right? Okay, so when I think about, go back to myself, I want to write a book. Where do I start? What is the publishing industry all about? Do I need a literary agent? What are the benefits of self-publishing? What does a book proposal look like? What do I like literally I started thinking about the questions I had. So that's in column 1. Column 2, next to each of those questions, I started to put the name of someone or a group resource that I could go and research and perhaps ask them to help me with that particular question. So if I take the big goal of I want to write a book, I didn't leap from there to just randomly firing out a question, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or in an email to a bunch of random friends. I didn't just reach out and go, hey guys, I'm thinking about writing a book. Can anyone help me? I sat there and I thought, do I know anyone who can tell me about the publishing industry? Do I know anyone who maybe knows something about what a book proposal looks like? Do I know anyone who might be able to give me the benefit, to give me some insights on whether or not I should think about self-publishing or whether or not I should go for a traditional publisher? I wonder how I can meet a literary agent. Is there anyone I know who can, make those kinds of introductions? So when I sat there and thought about that, I could start filling names next to the questions, and that's what goes into column 2. So luckily for me, what does the publishing industry look like? A neighbor of mine in an old apartment building was in the publishing industry. Now, she's a cookbook publisher, not the genre I'm writing, but she could give me a big overview of what the publishing industry looked like. So I wrote her name in column 2. And then when I thought about, should I self-publish? Oh, I had a friend who's done traditional publishing and self-publishing. So I put his name down. And then when it's sort of the column 3 is the action, like what am I going to do to spark the conversation? And no, I am not a believer in reaching out to people and saying, hey, can I pick your brain for 15 minutes over coffee? Instead, I emailed and asked someone the specific question. Katie, I know you're a cookbook publisher and it's not the genre I'm thinking about writing, but I'd really like an overview of the publishing industry. Is this something that, you could help me with? If so, let me know what the best way for me is to get that information from you. So we went for lunch. My friend Jonathan, who has self-published and had a traditional publisher, he's like, yes, I want to talk to you about it. And he was like, easiest thing rather than me putting it in a long email to you, Kelly, is meet me at this day, at this time, we'll go for a walk. The networking activity, right? The thing that most of you are going to be the first thing you're going to do. You're going to bustle into the activity. We're getting in our minds either I'm going to say sort of a pro forma, like, oh, just ask people for coffee, just go to that conference, rather than customizing and personalizing this to the person you want to interact with. We all live, as you know, busy, distracted lives. How do you get someone's attention? Make it about them. Make it about how they want to engage. So every time when I'm thinking about what it is I want to achieve, right? That's how I break it. Mentally, that's how I break it down. What is it I'm trying to find out? What is it I'm trying to achieve? What am I trying to discover? What is it that I'm, right? Who's the person, the group? Right? How do I connect with them? What's the right way for me to engage with them? Let me know by popping in the chat, or you, I don't know, do the reactions work? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a reaction. Let me know if that makes sense to you as a way of unpacking and approaching. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you. Demetria, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Thank you for letting me know if that makes sense, because the more focused, Laura, thank you, the more focused and specific we can be and targeted when we reach out to someone that we're connecting with, whether it's someone we know very well or is someone new we're reaching out to. When we've really thought about why they are the right person to respond to our inquiry, the more likely they're going to be responsive and get us the answer that we need. But if we remain wedded to the, oh, I'll just ask them for coffee and then I'll spring the question on them, we're not likely to make the connections or get the information that we want. So making that kind of checklist, that checklist is kind of handy when someone suggests to you that you undertake a networking activity. So we've probably all had these situations where some well-meaning person in our life has said, you know what you should go and do? You should go out and join this Chamber of Commerce, attend this speed networking event, attend a job fair, and you find yourself standing there, you know, with your drink or your glass, and you're thinking, why am I here? This is this kind of doing this checklist of, all right, who's this? What's the activity? Who are the people that it attracts? It's almost sort of taking my 3 columns and working them backwards. So who's this group? How do they engage? Does it tie into something that I'm trying to discover or learn, or that I'm curious about? Does it relate to something in my life that would be useful to know, or to meet other people who are doing the same thing? Like, what is it? Because I think the more we understand why we're engaging in activity in that kind of scenario, the more present we can be. And when we are present, we can make human connections. When we're distracted, when we're sitting there with our faces in their phone because we can't understand why we're at that event, we're not going to make the connections we need. And then we think it's the event. This was no good, these people, whatever. No, it was, part of it was in thinking through, why am I here? Why have I chosen to spend my time this way? And by doing that and being present, you can be more engaged. So I'll go back to myself, case in point. Earlier today, raced home from an event in the New York Stock Exchange and Wall Street Women Forum. It's been a long time since I've been a woman on Wall Street, other than just walking on Wall Street. So there's all these women in finance. And you may say, well, Kelly, why are you now an author and you're doing this? Why were you at this event? The woman who started it 12 years ago is somebody that I know. There's a couple other friends of mine who attend this event who still work on Wall Street. And I thought, you know what, chances are I might run into them. But most importantly, I can be there to support my friend and 2 of her colleagues who she's passed the baton to. Let's assume I got nothing else out of the event, I had really valid reasons to be there and to be present. And I knew why I was spending my time. So I was not resentful. I was not like, oh God, it's raining today and I got a lot of other things I could do, and why don't I just not show up? No, I knew I had made a valid choice and a choice that was respectful and meaningful for me and my time. So boom, I was there. Even from the outside, it might be like, well, it's kind of a strange thing for you to go and do, Kelly. Well, you know, all sorts of other things that you could be up to. So that's how that kind of put your goal across the top, those 3 columns, how that can help you plan out networking, which I think is really essential if you are someone right now who is networking because you're going for a career change, growing your business, that kind of stuff. Whew. Brittany, I'm going to take a big breath there. And I want to invite everyone who's here. And yes, 6 degrees of separation, because we can get, you know what, even before digital and Kevin Bacon, there's social science research that, mailing a letter from somebody in, I think it was in Nebraska to a specific person in Boston, and on average it was 6 degrees to get the letter into that person's hand, and you couldn't use a phone book to look them up. But anyway, for the folks who are here, how about jumping into the chat and let me know, like, questions, something you want to ask. Let me know a little feedback on that material. And this is while the recording is on, because I know we're going to get into a much more interactive format with the cameras off. So if people watching this recording, you're missing out by not being here. And we can really dive into, the specific networking, frustrations, challenges, woes, whatever it may be that brought you here this evening, because I would love to leave you with specific answers. But if there's something right now you want to pop in the chat, please do. Give you just a minute to do that. And you can ask anything, whether it's questions on, how you navigate this, or what should I do about that with social media, and how you think about, I can answer those kinds of general questions here. And otherwise, if there's not like big general questions that we want to share or ask in the chat, Brittany and everybody else, you can give me an emoji and a thumbs up to go into a much more facilitated small group workshop kind of format, so that I can help you solve your particular challenges. So we do have a question, Peter, thank you. Increase the number of clients and potential markets. That's fabulous. I love that, Peter.
Little vague, right?
Well, tell me more about the kind of industry that you're in, and how getting clients works in the industry you're already in.
So I'm in consulting engineering. We do consulting engineer for transportation agencies.
Mm-hmm.
I became our office manager about a year ago, so my role has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing well. We increased the size of the office or the staff, but we still have the same 4 primary clients in this branch office that we've always had.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to, in order to grow more, we need more clients.
Yep.
So we do consulting engineering for, site design and roadway design and bridge design.
Cool.
That's the market. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you created a list of potential targets? Do you have like a target list of clients?
I have an idea of who we'd want to, but not a specific target list.
Okay. So here's 2 things I'd say at this point in approaching it. Take that design worksheet that I just gave you. Your goal is to get more clients, right? So that first column, you could start thinking about who are companies, entities that are comparable to these great clients you have right now. And as you start thinking about identifying those companies, start putting them in column 1. Because then in column 2, you could start to say, all right, who may know these people who could make an introduction? Or who or where are the organizations where they're hanging out that I can get to know them? what are they doing that I can follow, sort of a good sleuthing on the internet, that I can learn more about them and maybe start engaging with them, or seeing what they need, so that even if I am making a cold pitch to meet them, I'm doing on the basis of a lot of information, a lot of that kind of sleuthing around. So you could use that worksheet that way. The other thing I would say is really make a description of who your ideal client is. And this is where, with people in your industry, how you can lean into conversations where people say, hey, Peter, how's it going? How's work? How's it going? You could say, you know what, it's going well, but I'm really looking to make it go better. Like, invite small conversation to go into being larger conversation. And we can do that by not just keeping it in that kind of whirlpool and that funnel of small conversation. We can do that by actually honestly answering the question. How's the business going? Well, but I'm looking to expand it. Oh, really, Peter? What are you doing? Well, you know what? We've got some great clients and I'm looking for more clients like them. Well, what do you mean by like them? And that's where having a description of the ideal client for me is. And even if you don't have the name of a company or entity that you're looking for that introduction to, if you can describe, my ideal client is fill in the blank. Even if the person right in front of you can't come up with a name or an organization in that moment, chances are, Peter, that you've now planted a little seed. And they're going to come back to you at some point and go, oh, I just realized my sister-in-law is the CEO of this company. Would they be a good introduction? And you're like, oh my God, they were top of my other list. Yes, that would be an amazing introduction. And why I'm really big on this, like leaning into the small talk and turning it into bigger talk, and why knowing exactly what it is that you're seeking to achieve or do is valuable is let me give you an example. A friend of mine was having a conversation with his personal trainer. And you can imagine the small talk conversation. How's work going? It's going fine. How's your knee? You know, like you could just have little banter small talk. And instead, when his personal trainer said, hey, how's work going? My friend leaned into the conversation. And now both of them leaned into it. So it's not just one way. He said, it's good, but this is what I'm trying to do right now. And he mentioned something that was work related and athletic related. It was involving a golf club. And the personal trainer, really listened and said, I may be able to help you with that. I think one of my other clients is a member of that club. So Peter, I want you to make that target list. Like if you start researching entities and then use a platform like LinkedIn to research and figure out, through the people who are existing clients, through the people who you work with, who may have a direct or indirect connection into these companies to enable you to, get that warm introduction and see if there's opportunities. And otherwise make a description of your ideal client so that when people ask, right, what's going on with work, you can say, here's what's going on, and start planting some of those seeds. Also, if you get that description of who your ideal client is, you can start thinking, the ideal client, where do they hang out? Where are they getting information? Where are they networking? Where are they? Because then that is the networking venues you need to be. Is it that you need to be more on LinkedIn in terms of thinking digital? Or is it, oh, they all go to a particular conference, then we should have, representation there. We should spend time there. Do they all belong to, I used to be on the board of not-for-profit, and that annual event for an organization in New York focused on helping women and children in domestic crisis, for some weird reason of history, that annual gala was the restructuring industry's like charity of choice. If you wanted to network with anyone in bankruptcy and insolvency in New York City, whether it was an investment bank or a law firm, that was the place to be. Who knew? But, you know, that's kind of digging, you know, to discover that there may be opportunities to connect with some of these people who are a business source, and it doesn't necessarily mean Chamber of Commerce lunches and that kind of thing. Peter, you can give me an emoji, thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know if that was helpful and gave you some ideas. Awesome. Oh, great question on, so everybody I think should do this. So this question on to find out how social media sees us and all the rest of it. Go into incognito mode on Google. So if you open up your Google, your Chrome browser and go into the right-hand corner, you'll see a way to search in incognito mode. So this would be as if a third party was searching you. And search your name, see what comes up. There are pieces of your digital footprint, you know, that's in your side of your control. So thinking about, like, let's go back to Peter's example. I bet when Peter and folks from Peter's company Google themselves, the first thing that's going to come up is likely hopefully your company's website, but it might be LinkedIn. And then maybe your bio on, you know, an industry website or an alumni organization, or it might be your bio on your website. That stuff that I've just mentioned is under your control. If you were interviewed in a magazine or you sort of interviewed on a website, you know, 10 years ago, and they have great search engine optimization and that keeps showing up, there's not much you can do about it other than find some other, you know, interviews to do that are more recent and relevant so we can push that other stuff down. But your LinkedIn profile is under your control. Your website and having the information on it accurate is under your control. Any bios that you give to people to post on their websites, that's under your control. So do Google yourself, make sure that information is relevant. And then, you know, also too, you get to rely on human nature. We're all lazy. Do we ever go beyond the first page of Google search? Not so much. So that's what I would do on that one. And hopefully that is helpful to you. Abraham J. So there we go. John and Eileen say, my question, networking post early retirement, which is really a sabbatical career break. Awesome. Not really sure where I want to go with this. You know what? This curiosity is an awesome, awesome, awesome driver for networking. And see what interests you. If you see somebody else's career that is interesting, like get curious about it and see what you can find out about them by reading their profile or what they've done online, and then reach out to them with a question which is something you can't find. There's a quote of Einstein's when he was asked if he had an hour to solve a problem, how would he solve it? And he said, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about it and 5 minutes solving it. So in your situation, like I'd say, get curious, see what's interesting. If you're reading about other people's, or see a job that someone's got and you think, wow, that looks kind of interesting, or that's interesting that they've done that in their, you know, early retirement, wonder how they got there. You know, Google them, read and see what they've got, scour over their LinkedIn profile and see if you can find some answers. And the stuff where you can't find answers, that's a great thing to reach out to someone about, to reach out to be able to say, wow, I was really interested in your career path and I saw you did this and I read your interview here. Don't worry, everyone I know who has received emails like this is thrilled. They love it when you've done the homework before you reach out. The email that says, oh, your career looks interesting, can I talk to you? that people get really frustrated by, but instead saying, oh, I see you've done all of this since your retirement. And I saw that other interview with you, saw it on YouTube, and it really explained a lot, but I'm still wondering about. Can you tell me how you did this? People will give you the time to answer that question. They will direct you to that information. So for right now, you know, kind of scratch every itch that kind of seems interesting, and see where it takes you. You know, maybe think about some of the things that you used to enjoy that you haven't had the time for. Go and explore those. Volunteer, talk to other, you know, if there's a cause that's something you're really in love with, go and volunteer for an organization that where you're going to come in contact with new people and talk to them and see what they're up to. And that might unlock some ideas for you in your sort of sabbatical career break, which is absolutely glorious, that you've got that opportunity, and just explore. Like I said, I always like to have a reason and a goal for networking. And as I said earlier, curiosity is a good reason, right? Somebody told me to attend, or somebody else thought I would be interested in this. That to me is not a good reason to go out and network and sit around and do something. Like, really think it through. All right, Laura's got a question on get back into your field. You're on LinkedIn. You're attended job search group when I can. I'm working remotely, so I don't have a lot of daily in-person reactions. People I know that are okay, so this is really great, and I really feel your frustration, Laura. This is, I think, where that exercise, that sort of that process I talked about, like, okay, I'm in a job search. That's a big question. How can you break down and get more specific in terms of what it is that you're looking to do and move into, so that you can get really focused and targeted with who you're asking or the groups you're interacting with to get you the career, like the career move that you're making. Often we are afraid to go for a specific when we're reaching out to people. But you need to think about how a big ask or a vague ask feels to somebody else. And also to realize some people may be in the same position in terms of receiving asks and information from a whole lot of other people. And so they may be very fatigued. And that could be part of their non-response. So make it easier for them to help you by being much more targeted and focused with respect to individuals and what you're asking or what you're seeking help from them on. I love this. I'm a creative and everyone else is. So I'd love to, Laura, when we're off the recording, I'd love to talk to you more and get more specifics on where it is you're doing some job searching, what kind of groups, what kind of